Hey guys, Gavin here, behind the camera. Today I want to talk to you about something that I see Brazilians messing up a lot, and that is adverbs. Specifically, the position of adverbs in sentences in English, which is a little bit different. In Portuguese, adverbs are often very easy to recognize because they're words that end with mente, right? Normalmente, rapidamente, recentemente. And in English, these are words that often end with ly, li, right? So felizmente is happily in English. Or we have words like enthusiastically. Overall, generally speaking, adverbs describe how an action is performed, how something is done. It is done happily. It is done enthusiastically. But it can also describe other things. For example, the frequency of an action. I'm actually going to put this over here. So words like sometimes, never, already, usually, well, de novo, once again. These words don't end with ly, but they are adverbs because they describe how often something occurs. They describe frequency. Additionally, we have adverbs that talk about intensity. Words like kinda in informal English, which is short for kind of. Really, which actually ends with ly here. And these intensity adverbs a lot of times have to do with your personal opinion. Your opinion. And we have words that kind of go in between all of these, potentially, for example. Awesome. So, I'm going to put all these words to the side here, and let's get some example sentences. I watch basketball online. So with this sentence, if we want to put an adverb, for example, maybe you only watch basketball online sometimes. Where are we going to insert this adverb? Now, what I see happening a lot of times with Brazilians is that you'll put the adverb at the very end, I watch basketball online sometimes. Or at the very beginning, sometimes I watch basketball online. These are not wrong, but you're going to be hearing these sentences differently because this is not natural to put the adverb at the very beginning or the very end when it talks about intensity with opinion and frequency. Okay? So let's look at just I watch here. In English, this is subject I, verb watch. And our adverb goes, in this case, right in the middle. So in this sentence, I watch basketball online, the most natural way that an English speaker will say this sentence is like this. I sometimes watch basketball online. And I think that because in English we always have to express the subject, people get confused and think that the subject has to come directly next to the verb. But in the case of these type of adverbs, this is how you will see the sentence. You could also insert other adverbs, right? That make sense. I happily watch basketball online. I never watch basketball online. So let's look at another sentence here. This is a past tense sentence. I liked that blood sausage. Where does the adverb go in this sentence? Well, it's easy. Again, we're just going to split the subject, I, and the verb, liked. And we can then put I really liked that blood sausage. Now we're talking about intensity and a personal opinion. We could put in kinda. I kinda liked that blood sausage. So this is level easy right here, but like all things, it gets a little harder. Let's put this back up here. What happens when we have a negative phrase? I don't think she likes me. I don't think she likes me. If you want to put, for example, the intensifier really, where would we put this? We put our auxiliary verb, which is do in this case, and our negative here before the adverb. So again, let's describe this more broadly here. You have the subject, I. You have your auxiliary verb, which is do or do not. And then right here, before the verb, which in this case is think, this is where you put your adverb. Really. I don't really think she likes me. I don't really think she likes me. If you start to pay attention when you're doing active listening, you'll begin to hear how our adverbs fall like this, right before the verb and after the subject and after the auxiliary verb. Let's do another example here. I don't wear a hat. Okay, simple sentence. Where would we put, for example, the adverb usually? I don't usually wear a hat. I don't usually wear a hat. Sometimes I hear Brazilians put these words here or here. Okay, I sometimes hear that. Again, it's not wrong, but this is the most natural, most fluid way that you'll hear English being spoken. So if you can accustom yourself to putting adverbs here right before the verb, you'll sound more and more natural. Let's do a couple more examples, and this time I want to talk about modal verbs. So modal verbs are verbs that don't change despite the subject being different. You don't have to conjugate them in the sentence. These are words to express the future, the words to express potential, conditional, words to express imperative, should. And so in a sentence such as, I will be on Telegram tonight. Will is future, okay? So our main verb is be, and just like the past example, in this example, our adverb is going to go right before the verb. So let's use an adjective or an adverb, for example, once again. De novo. De novo vou estar no Telegram hoje à noite. In English, this de novo comes right before the verb, most naturally. I will once again be on Telegram tonight. I will potentially be on Telegram tonight. Let's look at another sentence here. I would be interested. This sentence you can use, for example, if someone says something, is trying to sell you something, and you could say, I would be interested if the price were lower, something like that. But simply here we have I would be interested, our modal verb is would, our main verb is be, and let's again use the common frequency / opinion adverb, potentially. Talvez, maybe, you could even put maybe here. So instead of saying, I would be interested potentially, or potentially I would be interested, these sound not as natural. And so we put that right here in English. I would potentially be interested. So we have all of these. And the last couple examples that I'd like to give with adverbs have to do with past and present perfect, and future perfect actually. So when we say, for example, I have been to France. Eu já conheci a França. It's a little bit different in English, and most of you probably already know this. This is an example of using the present perfect. I have been to France. But if we want to insert never, we would not say, never have I been to France. We would not say, I have been to France never. It has to go somewhere in the middle. So, where does it go? The subject is I, verb is have been. And in this case, this is a special case because we actually break the verb up right in the middle. As you probably know, present perfect verbs consist of have and the past participle. Past perfect verbs consist of had and the past participle. So our past participle has been. The adverb goes right in the middle of this. So since this is our past participle, it goes right after have, and we get, I have never been to France. You could also say, I have already been to France. Perhaps your friend wants to know if you'd like to go to France with him or her. And you can say, thank you, but I've already been to France. What is another example of a sentence like this? I have seen that movie. I is the subject. Have seen is the verb. In this case, it's also in the present perfect. And our adverb is going to go where? Let's say that our adverb is already. That movie, you saw it several months ago. Someone wants to know if you want to see it again, but you say, no thank you. I have already seen that movie. I've already seen that movie. One more time. It is not wrong to say, I have seen that movie already. That's okay, but it's not as natural, and the majority of the time you will hear the sentence like this, with this type of adverb within the sentence. The last case that I'd like to talk about is when you have somewhat more complex sentences. So, I would have read that book. This is present perfect conditional. Conditional because of would, our modal verb would. And then present perfect verb have read, and then the object, that book. Subject, complex verb, object. Let's say we want to put the adverb never or the adverb enthusiastically. Maybe the whole sentence would be something like, I would have read that book if you had told me. Where do we put these adverbs? Well, in this case, the same rule as the present perfect before applies. We're always going to leave that last little portion of a verb to the right and cut it right there and say, I would have never read that book. Or, I would have enthusiastically read that book. If only you had told me to read that book, I would have enthusiastically read that book. So in all of these sentences, you can see that when we split them to put in an adverb, it goes right before the verb or the last part of the verb in English. So, with that, I want to let you know that I have a homework to practice examples like this. So download that homework from the link in the description below. Remember these purple scissors when you're thinking of these adverbs. And please, while you're listening to music, listening to news, listening to podcasts, listen for these examples of adverbs right in the middle of sentences. And then, once you start to feel more comfortable with them, and once you've done my homework, try to start using them in your own sentences. It may seem a little bit awkward at first, or a little bit slow, but eventually you will sound 5 times more normal, 5 times more natural with adverbs placed in sentences like this instead of at the very beginning or at the very end, which again is something that I hear Brazilians doing often.